And let's see if we got a post to our webhook. So now we pasted in this webhook. We're going to tell it to fetch sample requests, because if it posted, we should have received a message here, and we did not. It's not coming through. So this is where the debugging fun comes in. The first thing we're going to do is right-click on our page. We're going to go to Inspect and check our console to see if we have any errors. I don't see any errors in here. We didn't put in a lot of logging, so it's not likely that an error would have shown up, but I want to check and make sure. We're going to go back over here and look at our content. And we can, or our terminal log, excuse me. And we can see here that the webhook call failed. So it didn't write it correctly. So we're just going to copy this and put here, do not make changes. The webhook call failed. And here is the error. And we paste that in. You always want to be specific about errors. Don't just say, hey, it didn't send a message, right? We don't want to just be like, it never showed up. The AI will just keep guessing, and you'll spend a lot of time guessing, a lot of credits guessing, when you can just tell it what the error is if you go and look for the error here. Tell me why, and do not make changes. Here we go. Let's see. I think rather than messing with the Stripe information that's coming back, I would say we capture the contact info and then just hold it and wait for a confirmation from Stripe and then send that information through. Then hold it and wait for the Stripe payment to process before sending. Do not make changes. Here we go. Let's see, modify this. Yeah, I think we should just pass it in the customer request, rather than messing with Stripe's data. Let's do option 1. Please do option 1. And do not mess with the Stripe functions. Change nothing else. Okay, we're going to have that run through. And let's take a look at what we've changed so far. We have our change log. So this is something that shows up when you use a PRD like this tool, creates a changelog instruction for every app that you build, and that puts it into the build for you. So what's going on here, I'm not having to go in and necessarily make updates to the changelog myself. The AI is receiving that instruction every time it goes to a file to make a change. And that was generated right here in the PRD tool. So then you basically have a running changelog of everything that's been done to the application, which is really nice. Go ahead and close those files out. Take a look here. What did it do? Okay, let's see if the changes it made runs through for us. Control C, hit the up arrow just to get this command again, because I already typed it in once. That restarts our server. And we will do a summer wheat beer for this one. Okay, let's go see if we had the same error here. The same error did not show up. So let's see if it came through. Check for new requests. And here is our request that came through. So now what has happened is we've processed a payment and sent that information to this webhook, and the webhook received it. And we can see what it received. So it received the amount that was paid, the customer name, customer email, and the IP address, which this IP address is correct because it's running locally. So now we can take, and it came with a timestamp as well here. We can take this information and save it to the client record and then basically be able to send them a receipt with their name and email to their email and the IP address that they paid from, what recipe they bought right here, and even put a timestamp on it. So it's basically an official receipt that we can create right out of this webhook. Now, there's one fun thing that I would like to add to this webhook if we can. I would like to be able to include the recipe. Does that sound like a cool idea? So we could actually include the recipe in the webhook and be able to email people their recipe. Because right now it just stays up on the screen. And again, instead of making a whole app to email recipe information, we're just going to go and pull the recipe information right down into the webhook. So that is functional. What I'm going to do is commit this to GitHub with the changes before we go and add something else, since that is tested and functional. Sound like a plan? Gives me a little bit of a save point. I can branch off of there if I want to, if something goes awry. Or what's really cool, if I don't like what we build and it just gets to be a really big mess here, because I've saved my files here, I can just come over into the IDE and delete all changes beyond that point, and my app gets restored back to the way it was. So it's a really nice way to not break stuff as you go along. New topic, new chat. Always. Do not make changes. There is a webhook. We have to load in our context. So a new chat, it doesn't know what I'm doing. It doesn't know what we just built. There's a webhook that is called when a payment is made. It sends over info like the name and email and IP and timestamp. I would like to include the details of the recipe they purchased with the webhook content. Needs to include the whole recipe. Look and see what is needed for this to happen. Do not make changes. All right, so we're loading in the context of what we want. The more you can tell it about where to look, the better. So giving it this sort of context lets it know where to look and not just go dig through the whole application. Any questions about how this is working so far? What are some fun uses that you could see for a webhook? Here we're doing like a receipt and sending them what they purchased, kind of like an order process. Let's see. Question from Tony here. Created a page on the site for webinars and had a submit button so they could register for it. I didn't have a lot of time, so I didn't want to do a webhook solution. Instead, I thought it'd be quicker to simply link it to an email. give it to the email address, subject, title, email body, think that'd be the solution. But while it worked fine for some, it didn't work well for everyone. So guessing, webhook, yes, something like Airtable. What you ran into there is not an uncommon issue. And it's exactly why I love webhooks. But you also get extra benefits from doing a webhook. Right there, you built like a one purpose feature. It sends an email with information. That's one purpose. But then if you wanted to take that customer information and put them into Airtable, you have to now build another one purpose function. And then if you want to take that customer information and use it for something, such as have it in your CRM to put them on an email list, you now have to add another function. Whereas if you do a webhook, you can chain all those functions together, send it once to the webhook, and then use automation to put it everywhere you want it. Really.
I was trying to be lazy.
Yeah. Sometimes the short path ends out being longer. Workflow automation. Yes, Sierra, that is exactly correct. I will show you that on this webhook that we just built. That is precisely what we've built, is the workflow automation. We just built the trigger that causes the workflow to start.